I'm just trying to figure out what is happening with one of the most, I guess, historically conservative organizations on the right. And do you think that they're salvageable? Is all the mistakes that they've made, is it salvageable? I mean, they're facing a civil war within their own organization right now.
I thought that Kevin's last video, which must have been hard for him to cut, where he basically said, I should never have said that Tucker Carlson can never sin against Heritage Foundation and we'll always be besties forever, that actually we're a think tank. And as it turns out that if you violate our ideas, that means that we actually can disassociate from you. Listen, would I have preferred that he actually just said, Tucker Carlson glossed a Nazi, he's not welcome here? Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been the easiest way to deal with the issue. He didn't do that. He sort of walked it back, but he did move back on it pretty markedly.
What's the root cause of many of the bad ideas that are currently being promoted and dividing the conservative movement? Take a look at this clip over here with Dana Lash talking with Ben Shapiro about these issues. So we'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
It's not just a passing thing. I mean, this is a growing thing, and there is a significant number of people in the Gen Z, demographic that they're talking about this. They're amplifying a lot of this. It's just bad information that a lot of people have, and they were infuriated. I just looked on social media. I'm sure you saw it. They were infuriated with Eric Trump's answer, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this, and we'll dive into it further.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that we can start with what's driving this in the first place. I think that one of the things that is driving this is the fact that for a decade or more, there was an attempt by the left to basically target Christian white men. And there's no question that this was true, that just in terms of policies were designed in order to disadvantage Christian white men, whether it was going after the Little Sisters of the Poor or the attempt to Me Too anybody who was masculine in any way, the attempt to say that men could be women, the sort of DEI nature of all of American politics, the BLM movement, which is directed at the idea that there's a white supremacist superstructure. And in saying that over and over and over, what the left actually did is they started to create a feeling in a lot of young white men that as targeted group, they actually were an identity group of their own. And then now as an identity group of their own, they must rise up and lay low anybody who is not a member of that group. And there are a lot of influencers and a lot of political commentators that we've talked about who are fomenting this because it goes viral online. The algorithms, particularly on X and on TikTok, are very, very fond of this, I think, for a wide variety of reasons, some decent and most not decent. I think there are a lot of manipulations in the algorithm there. But there are a lot of people who are perfectly willing to cater to this and then to sort of promote this idea. And that's how you get to this place. I mean, the fact that this was happening at a TPUSA event and these sorts of questions are the kinds of questions that Charlie Kirk himself was routinely receiving over and over. And it was clearly coming, as Nick Fuentes said, it was clearly coming from Nick Fuentes' side of the aisle. I do not think this is originally a general outgrowth of normie traditional thought. A lot of the kinds of questions that you're hearing here. And the vice president was asked last week whether Judaism was targeting Christians, which is an absurd contention, just historically and contemporaneously. Those questions are coming from a particular place, and the humoring of that particular place is something that Charlie actually did not want to do. Charlie actually forbade the involvement of Nick Fuentes and the Groyper mentality and white supremacy from TPUSA. Obviously, that door has been breached, and I think that's why you're seeing that at TPUSA. And frankly, I think that the TPUSA could do a better job of working with some of the personalities with whom it is currently working who are promoting this sort of stuff.
Well, and this gets into the whole, I mean, I just saw, a clip of someone we know mutually, Tucker Carlson, who was on stage with another person that we know mutually, who's a friend of mine, Megan Kelly, a friend of yours as well. And there was a discussion, like just as an example, AIPAC. And it was said on stage by both that it's a foreign, that's like they're a foreign entity or they're taking foreign money, which just isn't true. I mean, and we talked about that last segment. Having someone
it would be illegal for them to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's against federal campaign finance law. But having that's actual misinformation. And I'm being very generous in that because I'm sure it's been pointed out to him repeatedly that that's not how that group works, and nor is it the tax structure of it. But when you have people of that caliber who are stating those things, a lot of people just sort of borrow the credibility, or they borrow the caliber, and they use that as a credibility to justify the perpetuation of these false things. And at some point, how culpable are these people at that level for driving that misdirection?
I mean, I think extraordinarily culpable. I think that the fact is that we're all responsible for the things that come out of our mouths. I mean, that's what you do every day. It's what I do every day. And holding people to account for the things that come out of their mouths in front of millions of people seems like baseline decency and also baseline responsibility to your audience and to your job. And so the constant promotion of lies, I mean, I won't say it's misinformation because I do think it's lies. I think they know better, in order to promulgate a particular agenda that, frankly, I think is anathema to traditional American conservatism, as I made, I think, clear repeatedly this week.
You did a great job.
It is a very bad thing. And the truth is, it's also not making life better for any of these young men. Okay, I think one of the biggest problems that we have, and I think this is true on the left, I think it's also true on the right, is this idea that the best thing for young men to feel is aggrieved. The worst thing you can feel in America as a general rule is to feel aggrieved. You are the luckiest people. We are all of us are the luckiest people in the existence of all of human history. We are so lucky to live in this unbelievable country where legitimately you can go on your phone, push a button, and things just arrive at your door, where you get to decide on your leadership, where all the people who are complaining about cancellation are making tens of millions of dollars online from talking and then complaining about how some people don't like them and are criticizing them. We are also lucky to live in this country. And when we hear this kind of constant grievance mongering and the accentuation of grievance among young men, you're doing a disservice to young men. The way that young men are going to get ahead in America is the same way that I got ahead as a young man, which is to work really, really hard and do a lot of really hard jobs. And then eventually you will succeed. If you make good decisions, you will succeed. And there's this kind of benighted idea that has set in, and I think it's ugly and it's bad. And you see it on both sides of the aisle, predominantly the left, but you're now seeing it on the right as well, that actually everybody is a victim, that if you're not as successful as you want to be, that's because there is somebody standing in your way, some conspiratorial coterie of people who are standing in your way. There's nothing more enervating and stupid than that in the United States of America. These are all college students who are all going to have a shot in the job market. They're going to have a shot at getting married. They will have a shot at buying a home once they get married and actually get a job and work for a few years if they make the right decisions. And instead you have people feeding them the line that the best way for them to address their life is through disliking women. I mean, you hear that. I mean, Tucker Carlson is a man who glossed Andrew Tate, who is one of the worst people on earth with regard to women. That the best way to address your problems is to pretend that there is some secretive group of people meeting in the back room to manipulate America's foreign policy, as opposed to, the very powerful president of the United States who has a mind of his own very clearly. This idea that all the problems in your life are the responsibility of somebody else. I hate it. It's wrong, and it makes people's lives individually worse.
For those joining us, we're talking to Ben Shapiro. I hate how it's always, the choice to exercise free association is, you've seen it, it's described as cancellation, which I think is so disingenuous, which brings me to Heritage. And, I wanted to believe that Kevin Roberts, who I had on the show, president of Heritage, was misinformed. Maybe, an underling gave him something to read. I really wanted to be very, very generous and give someone the benefit of the doubt because it was just so egregiously bad. But then to spend like 5 and 6 videos later trying to clean up the first one and they just keep getting demonstrably worse. It's not cancellation. And we have that free association. But the problem is, I'm just trying to figure out what is happening with one of the most, I guess, historically conservative organizations on the right. And do you think that they're salvageable? Is all the mistakes that they've made, is it salvageable? I mean, they're facing a civil war within their own organization right now.
I don't want to speak for what's happening inside the organization or on the board. I will say that I thought that Kevin's last video, which must have been hard for him to cut, where he basically said, I should never have said that Tucker Carlson can never sin against Heritage Foundation. We'll always be besties forever. That actually we're a think tank. And as it turns out that if you violate our ideas, that means that we actually can disassociate from you. Listen, would I have preferred that he actually just said, Tucker Carlson glossed a Nazi, he's not welcome here? Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been the easiest way to deal with the issue. He didn't do that. He sort of walked it back, but he did move back on it pretty markedly. And he also acknowledged that the original video was quite terrible, which obviously it very much is. And so I do want to give people grace when they actually are seeking it. And I do think that Kevin is seeking some sort of grace from the conservative movement. I think that, again, in the interest of comedy and in the interest of trying to orient toward the left, I think it would be good for us to offer grace to people who are seeking it. I have no reason to believe that Kevin isn't genuine in that.
How in the world do we push back? I think we've done a really good job, in terms of people who really believe in constitutionalism. We don't, make idols out of race and creed and all of that stuff. How do we push back against this? Or how should I say, have alternative programming to push back against the sorts of messages now that are really, really taking root and leading so many people, particularly young men on the right, astray?
So again, I think that what we're going to see on the right, among young men particularly, is a battle between a grievance-based culture and a work-based, a good decision-based culture. And we need to provide the opposite. Because, again, I think that the easiest thing to do is to pretend as though there's not some sort of iceberg underneath the surface here. When people are asking about the USS Liberty, for example, which is a friendly fire incident that happened in 1967 during the Six-Day War, and for which the United States did full investigations, Israel did full investigations, there's contemporaneous tape, there's tons of evidence on this, there have been full investigations, Israel ended up paying
I'm going to dive into that actually
an amount of money to everybody who was
next
killed.
segment.
Yeah, I mean, like this. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, to be honing in on that, as opposed to, you know, the fact that right now Tucker Carlson and many people among him are glossing the Russians. And if we want to talk about, you know, people who were responsible for a lot of deaths across the 20th century, maybe the Russians. How about the Venezuelans who are currently killing people, you know, through shipping drugs to America?
Let me dovetail into that. I don't mean to interrupt you.
A few days ago.
Let me dovetail into that, because what you just said, I think you're hitting, like, you're talking about Venezuela, and then of course we have the Qatari element, all of this stuff. Honestly, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I sometimes Occam's razor comes into play, and I feel like this is one of those times. You know, we were talking about all of the things that were aggrieving young men, and we agree. You know, the third wave, fourth wave feminism, the left. It seems like this is a consequence of leftist policy run amok, and now, you know, where it's all coming, you know, to harvest. But it also seems like it was seized upon by a lot of bad actors, foreign bad actors. And there's a lot of discussion about Qatari money coming into it and CCP boosting algorithms as a way to decentralize, you know, positions on the right, fracture the right, and then, of course, you know, break an alliance in the Middle East. I honestly, that seems like the easiest explanation to me as a way to, you know, try to inflame and divide the right. Last question for you. I mean, do you think that that's ultimately why this has exploded as big as it has?
I mean, I think it's algorithmically true. I'm always going to be hesitant in saying that individual people, you know, are on the payroll of any foreign country without any evidence to suggest that. And so I'm going to, I think in some ways even worse, suggest that what the stuff they're doing is actually genuine bad ideas coming from a genuinely different place. And if that's the case, then I think that we have a deeper rooted problem. But the algorithms that are in fact boosted by foreign powers pretty clearly are having a major impact on young people.
That's actually a scarier answer than I thought I was going to get out of you. So I don't like that answer. It's terrifying, because it's worse if it's a sincerely held belief as opposed to someone's being like a mercenary. That's the truly scary thing. Ben, you've been so good in all of this, and you've been very consistent. And thank you so much for that as well.
So the victim mentality thing is something experienced by young people on the left and young people on the right. Many people, especially young people, see themselves as victims. Many young people especially feel that they inherited a victim status or have been victimized by society or something else or someone else out there in the ether. And to make matters worse, this mindset is often pushed and encouraged by unscrupulous people and politicians who want more power and control. If they perpetuate your sense of victimhood, they can promote themselves as the person or party that's going to save you. I will keep you informed, or vote for me and our party will help you get out of the people or the organizations or the mentality that is holding you down. And I think the key to remembering the victim mentality and to breaking free of the victim mentality is that it is just that. It is a mentality. It is a self-defined, self-constrained worldview that, rather than looking inward and saying, how can I help myself? You say, well, I haven't achieved what I'd like to achieve because there's some force out there that is not letting me succeed. And that's just not the case. It reminds me of the biblical story of Egypt, of the Israelites leaving Egypt. What's interesting is that in Hebrew, the word Egypt, Mitzrayim, means not only Egypt, like the physical geographical place, but it also means Meitzarim, which means limitations. And so the idea of the Israelites breaking free from Egypt was not only describing a historical event where Israelites are leaving the geographical place of Egypt. It's an instruction for all of us. It's a biblical instruction for all of us to leave our inner Egypt, to leave those limitations, the constraints that we've set upon ourselves, and free ourselves, enabling us to achieve what we're meant to do. to take ourselves to our personal promised land through leaving our inner constraints. This is the triumph of the victim mentality, to look at it and point to it and say, this is just a phantom, this is just a mirage. This victim status that I've conferred upon myself for a variety of reasons, that has been put upon me by sometimes well-meaning people, sometimes not well-meaning people, but this idea that you are somehow constrained, that the world, the ether, the government, a group of people are conspiring against you to keep you down, is just simply not the case. Look into yourself, recognize that you are a human being created in the image of God. The infinite power of the infinite God can help you overcome anything if you want it to. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there on the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.